Battlefield 2042, a game that just refuses to die, even after putting itself to rest. To say this game has had a rough journey throughout its life cycle would be putting it lightly. From starting life as a completely different idea only to change direction months before its reveal, to having more than its launch player base for a couple of months, only for that to fizzle out because DICE did the very DICE thing to do and did nothing about it. 2042 for a majority of its life has been a product that the greater gaming community has been laughing at for the past, oh god, has it really been that long? But the one thing I'm pretty sure that those who did play the game and those who haven't can come together and agree upon is the genuine surprise one may feel to see just how long the game managed to last after its initial release. And I'm not just talking about the first 4 seasons of the game, because no matter what, they legally had to release those. But trust me, if they never included the fine print that stated 4 seasons of content, they would have probably cut their losses by the second season with probably even less content. Like, let's be honest here, EA isn't really a company known for making smart decisions. 2042 for some unknown reason was allowed to live on. But not in the proud way a game's lifecycle would be seen as, but more as a, we'll let you live, but we refuse to acknowledge your existence to shareholders every quarter since its release. EA's disappointment for the title was always very obvious. It's clear that they had big expectations for the game and the franchise moving forward, but forgot to give the studio actual development time to make those expectations into reality. And when it blew up in their face, they would be forced to reevaluate everything, while telling fans anything and everything they wanted to hear to calm them down, regardless if it was bullshit or not. Like, I'm pretty sure that's well known at this point that despite what was told to the press, the game was never all hands on deck after release. Like, we knew that there was just no way that could be the case, especially with how long it even took to get a scoreboard in the game. But regardless of what was real or not, the game continued to push on, fixing the core problems, building off players' feedback, and genuinely improving with each season they released. And by the 4th and final season, people were starting to ask DICE and more importantly EA not to abandon the game once the last contractual season released. The life cycle for a DICE game is something everyone is accustomed to now. A game is released in an inexcusable state, most of its life cycle is then focused on fixing the game. The bare minimum of post-launch content is shoved out the door in a very inconsistent manner, and once it got to the point where everyone can unanimously agree that this is how the game should have shipped at launch, all support for the title is then cut off, as all efforts are moved onward towards the next game. But that wasn't really the case for this game. When 2042 got to the point where people thought this is how the game should have released, instead of closing up shop, which everyone thought they would, including those who played the game since launch, they got another season, and then another one, and then another. For some reason, out of all the games EA could have kept supporting, they decided to pick 2042 to be the title that they stuck with. And now it's back with a brand new seasonal event for the spooky season, released within the last 4 days of October. You make sense of it as you will. They did the same thing last year. There's countless of factors that contributes to a successful long-lasting game, that at the end of the day can vary from person to person. One person can emphasize a game's graphics as being the biggest factor, while another person can emphasize a game's replay value as being the biggest key for a successful game. But the thing I like to look for in a video game aren't any of the pretentious stuff like graphics or whether or not the marketing wowed me. It's simply just if the community is funny or not. Like, let's be honest with ourselves, there's no secret that when deciding what new game to spend copious amount of hours into, one of the first things we look into a game is the community the game has fostered. And for good reason. In my personal opinion, a video game is only as successful as its community allows it to be. A sign of a great game is one that constantly listens to its fan base, whether it wants to or not. And one of my favorite communities to look at from time to time like a concerned parent is the community for War Thunder. That's right, the snail has returned to hold me hostage this holiday season and to tell you it brings gifts, treats, and more whether you like it or not. War Thunder is a free-to-play game that lets you experience all-out warfare in big expansive maps. Available on all consoles both past and present, featuring over 2,500 vehicles from 10 different countries spanning decades of mechanized warfare. From commanding a top-of-the-line prototype tank, to piloting a plane held together by hopes and dreams, to even being a captain on the 7 seas. If your dream is to command an armored vehicle of war, then War Thunder is the place to live it. And the best part of all is that this game is Steam Deck verified, meaning that you can enjoy all of this from the comfort of your own bed in the middle of the night. But if you don't have a Steam Deck, you can just download War Thunder Mobile for free on any Android or Apple devices. If you press the link in the description or the pinned comment, you can claim a bunch of cool free items, but reminder, this is only for a limited time. Join today and maybe you too can help win an online argument by leaking classified government documents. The year is 1945. The Battle of the Bulge rages on. The Americans were being overrun by the German onslaught until they were saved by the mysterious occult group called the Covenant of Fire, nicknamed the Butchers of Bastogne by American troops on the ground impressed by their work. But just like most random acts of kindness, there was an ulterior motive. You see, the Covenant of Fire is actually the group that survived the trials of Project Firestorm. Yeah, that one. But they didn't just pull up to save the Americans in their moment of need, but the actual motive to this tactic was just to get in close enough to Bastogne and bury Sulla's strongboxes, with the goal of one day digging them back up when the time was right. Fast forward a couple of decades, the year is now 2049. Archangel, the company that Henry Blackburn leads, yeah that one, has partnered with the Solis Research Group to dig up their buried secrets from World War II. While looking through the archives, Blackburn finds references to a weapon of prophecy from Solis's old days, and proceeds to lead an expedition across Europe to find it to no avail, until they get a lead that points them into the direction of Bastogne, Belgium. But coincidentally, at the same time, the Notepads have gotten word from Valkyrie where the secret weapon is buried. Who the fuck is Valkyrie? Your guess is as good as mine. The Notepads race to Belgium to uncover it before Archangel and Solis get their hands on the dangerous weapon. And once on site, they try to locate it, but the Covenant of Fire suddenly thought now was the perfect time to go unearth their Solis boxes, and once they arrive on site, the battle ensues between the Notepads and the occult over World War II era boxes that can manipulate the weather and cause rings of fire. You make sense of the lore as you would. The Circle of Hell event brings us not much in its offerings, but it's sure more than what we expected at this point in its life. It gives us the basics we come to expect from this game. A brand new battle pass, a new limited time game mode, and some semblance of brand new maps, this time in the form of revamped maps. The Battle of the Bulge and El Alamein see them get a brand new coat of paint, making them darker in both a thematic and a literal sense. Battle of the Bulge being the one with more to it, as being the location where the Solis boxes are located, they have more ambiance with tiki torches, bonfires, and small rings of fire here and there. El Alamein is just dark, but it does offer a different layout to the map. Or so I think, because when I do play El Alamein, it's usually the entire map, and here it's only confined to the German spawn side, so that's fun. The event game mode this time around is a modified version of Hardcore, Conquest, and Rush. The Hardcore experience this time around features the basic limited HUD and friendly fire, but along with this comes the inclusion of magazine discarding, which means if you reload a magazine, the bullets remaining within that mag will be discarded. A quote-unquote realistic audio was enabled, which modifies the base audio of the environment. I can't tell the difference, but sure. Weapons got rebalanced, tactical sprint and slides are disabled, soldier health is reduced, and the best thing is that the mode introduces mandatory uniforms to the game, where the US forces are wearing this tan uniform that's applied for all the specialists, while the Russian forces all have this black and red color scheme. Why couldn't this be in the base game? You tell me. The maps that the hardcore experience can be played on are the Battle of the Bulge, El Alamein, Redacted, and Orbital. But how does it actually, play out? If you ever had the displeasure of joining one of the several 24/7 Afghanistan war or Ukrainian war milsim servers via Portal, then you pretty much know the rundown for this game mode, including the maps in play. You see, for such little content on offer already, DICE still decided to drip feed us said content through the span of the event. The first week just had Hardcore Conquest on Battle of the Bulge and El Alamein, while the second week decided to bring in Rush into the rotation. And now in the third week, they decided to add in Redacted into the mix of maps. So that's right, by the time of me writing this, and hell by the time this video might go up, there's still one more map that's yet to even be in the playlist that was advertised as being part of the whole event. Why, DICE? Playing Hardcore Conquest on these maps was just as fun as what I think being dipped in acid must feel like. Since the 1942 maps were made in a time when the render distance in games was comparable to that of Silent Hill, there's not much cover in between points, and with the hardcore settings limitation on movement, it makes traversing these large maps an absolutely grueling experience, one filled with nothing but sniper glints every 5 seconds or so. The Battle of the Bulge stands out to be the better of the two, as there's parts to the map where you can truly experience close quarter combat, rather than being the absolute mess that it is on El Alamein. This Dust Bowl of a map is absolutely horrifying to play on, Since it's nothing but a flat terrain with a mountain to the side, it's literally just sniper alley for any infantry players. Like, why even bother? And I don't mean that to be rude, I mean why even bother, because the map has way more vehicles in play than Battle of the Bulge. Vehicles on this map are definitely the standout, as you can just drive around the desert and shoot the enemy team. Yeah, there's not much to do besides that, actually. Can you tell I'm trying to scrape the bottom of the barrel for praise for this map? I just really don't like it. Sure, I get to use vehicles like tanks and my stealth helicopters, but in a game where your odds of surviving in an aerial vehicle for longer than 3 minutes is already stacked against you, yeah, making it easier to get shot down doesn't really activate a single neuron in my brain. The next map to be released was Redacted. And how was it? Alright, it's the Metro style map. You know exactly what you're getting into by even loading it. Nothing but grenade spam, smokes, and a hard defense at the first MCOM station that sees the attackers not moving a single inch forward. Nothing a Pike can deal with her trusty 12M auto shotgun and a couple of smoke grenades. Oh wait. The battle pass this time around is, well, it's another battle pass filled with skins and a new vault weapon. Not really much to say here. It's cheaper this time around, but not because of the kindness of EA's hearts, but rather because it only has 30 tiers. Like, I was able to get the pass by using some leftover boins I already had, but you bet your ass EA is still trying to get you to pay $10 for it. The skins present are supposed to show the cult, but like, they don't make sense. If the Covenant of Fire are disciples of people who survived Project Firestorm, it would make sense if their uniforms would reflect that of World War II soldiers. And you do see that in the last skin in the Battle Pass. Oh wait, did I say the last skin in the Battle Pass? No, I mean the one skin that's locked behind their $10 accelerated pass, while the other skins look like edgy bird skins. Yeah, cause that makes sense. The weapon this time around isn't a new piece of high-tech machinery, but rather is a weapon that's over 100 years old. Or it's something I would be saying if it was the correct one. The M2 Garand is now in all-out warfare, as a vault weapon joining the marksman rifle class. Now originally when I saw this, I thought it was cool that they were finally putting a 1942 vault weapon in the game. But no, it's the one from Bad Company 2, which made me laugh. It's a pretty good marksman rifle, 2 shots to kill with each shot doing about 60 damage or so, and in the hardcore playlist it's pretty much a one-shot kill with the higher damage and bullet velocity enabled, which in all honesty contributes to the hell that is the hardcore game modes. Now being a vault weapon, what futuristic optics and modifications did DICE allow players to play around with this 100-year-old weapon? If you said nothing cause of course that's where this joke is going, then you'd be correct. The main gimmick of bringing vault weapons into all-out warfare was that they would come with the game's near future optics and mods when applicable. And yet this just goes on to be another case of DICE just saying shit just cause. A way to keep people reeled in with each new season to see which guns would be brought into all-out warfare next. Until they just stopped doing that too, making me wonder where the hell is my Battlefield 3 AUG. But the biggest thing I've learned from DICE over the years is something that I'm surprised I've never realized sooner. They're just not good at events. A franchise that isn't really known at making events just sucks at making events. What a surprise. Now I say this not to be dicks at the devs for even trying. The task of bringing in a brand new event with each season is a very daunting task that shouldn't be overlooked. Countless of hours trying to figure out what can work best with a setting of the map, the theme of the season, and the time of year, only to be faced with the reality of what can actually be made stays within the time frame of production and more importantly within the budget allocated for the project. The best ideas for a game are usually those that stay on paper, as more times than not, the most challenging part is adopting said ideas into reality, and it's very easy for those ideas to fail in execution without the perfect team to spearhead the project. DICE's games aren't really known for having big seasonal events. Sure, their games in the past have had fun events here and there, from the bow rifle, unlimited power, or all the shenanigans that used to happen on the CTE. But those weren't really events as we know seasonal events to be nowadays. They were always just a way to bring the community together for like a week or two and have fun. But just like everything else in life, times change. And thanks to Fortnite basically ruining every aspect to modern online gaming, seasonal events were now seen as this big flashy new buzzword. And just with everything in life, DICE was the last ones to adapt. If I remember correctly, one of their first ever seasonal events they tried to do was in Battlefront 2. Amidst the whole loot box debacle, they tried to run their first in-game event with the launch of the game, where players were tasked to pick a side. The idea was great, but in execution it was kind of lackluster. So much so that by the next season they dropped the idea in general. And then the second season happened, and then they just dropped the whole season's moniker entirely for the game, going back to releasing content when it was ready type of motto. And then their next game was more or less just floating there aimlessly for a little while, and all of that culminating in Battlefield 2042, a game that even before launch was proudly parading its first year of seasonal content, only to, well, the problem with 2042 wasn't necessarily its ideas, but its lack of creativity with said ideas. Apart from Season 3, there was never a season where the seasonal event actually went along with that season's core theme and was actually good. Season 1 didn't even have an event because it was pushed back due to the studio's attempt to fixing the game, so already off to a good start. Season 2 had the Liquidators event. The Liquidators are the lethal hand of the dark market. In a season where its core theme was secret underworld arms dealing, the Shadow figure having their own PMC is something that sounds completely awesome. So surely the event mode would tie into this lore somehow, right? Of course it wasn't. Yeah, the mode we got for those weeks was Tactical Conquest, which was just a fancy way of saying domination. But the following season would be a night and day difference. Season 3 would revolve around the company Nordvik, an advanced weapon manufacturer based out of Sweden, and the map itself would be their research facilities out in the middle of nowhere, really leaning into that future tech. The event this season would be the Battle of Nordvik. You see, although Nordvik claims to be neutral in the conflict, they've been supplying the Americans with advanced weapons. The Russians caught wind of this and, off the record, hired a PMC called Blackstorm to lead an attack on the facilities, while Nordvik deployed their own defense corps to repel the attack. And so over the course of 3 weeks, we were able to play with the closest thing 2042 ever got to an operation, with the first week being the invasion of Nordvik, the second week being the defense of Nordvik, and the final being the liberation of Nordvik, each having their own limited time game mode that actually made sense narratively to what each week was named. And the skins that came along with the season complemented it as they were both the factions in play, Nordvik Defense Corps and Blackstorm. Now, as much as I want to go down each season one by one, I don't really have the energy for that, but you really start to see a pattern. For every good seasonal event, there's 2 bad ones, ideas that failed in one shape or another, from it lacking a core theme, to the game mode not really mixing well, to the game mode itself to just being bad. It's kind of sad to see in my personal opinion because it seemed like they cracked the code on their second try, but went back to the drawing board afterwards instead of simply building off that foundation. And when they did build off and improved on an experience, it just felt like they were missing the manpower to truly make it an amazing experience. Yeah, your eyes aren't deceiving you. That is in fact Isaac Clarke, in a Left 4 Dead type of experience. No, I would not be elaborating any more than that. The biggest problem for this game wasn't that the events sucked, although yeah, that was part of it, but they never seemed to be the main focus. These events always just felt as a way to sell more skins to the players and squeeze an already loyal fanbase out of more money. Because that's what they ultimately were. They were just a new avenue to promote new skins for the community to buy. Which is really disappointing because the lore that's built around each season gets more interesting as they progress, which in hindsight just sours the actual event because the possibility of what could have been just outweighs what we actually get. All these great ideas, from a sentient AI going rogue to the precursor of the Pan-Asian Coalition emerging, basically gone to waste because it was only here to sell skins and that was it. If you want to go balls to the wall with an idea, then go nuts with it. Don't let it just be limited to a 3-week long event. Let the seasonal events actually be seasonal. Let us get invested with the ideas you have to offer, and let us see those ideas manifest in other ways than just skins. This season brought us 2 seasonal maps into the game. Why couldn't this happen more? I know season 1 did not have an event, but something as simple as making a nighttime version of Exposure would have gone a long way in setting up the idea of these limited time events was in fact limited time experience. Like, imagine just how better the Battle of Nordvik could have been if thematically the map changed each week, showing the progression of the invasion, starting the invasion in the midst of a dark thunderstorm, and then the following week have it be a fiery hell like Verdun Heights, and then by the final week have it look like the apocalyptic landscape that is Passchendaele. Or in the case of this season, what if the Battle of the Bulge had a firestorm around it? That would have been cool. That would have sold a limited time experience. Another way of making something feel like an actual limited time experience would have been offering players the chance of using crazy outdoor weapons, stuff you literally would not see in the normal game. Like, imagine during the Dead Space collab we were actually allowed to use the weapons from Dead Space. You already went through the trouble of making skins for the guns, now imagine if they functioned properly like they did in Dead Space. Or in Future Strike, imagine if the main objective wasn't just to take control of the area, but rather a race to uplink a Battle Walker instead, and the first ones to activate it will get control over it. I just really want to see a Battle Walker in modern day, please DICE. Sure, it's one thing to give us a limited time game mode, but the problem with these game modes was that the majority of them were already doable in Portal, so the wildness of these game modes were never really there. But actually giving us reskins of our maps could have created long-lasting memories that made us feel like we actually went through an event, making us see everything return back to normal once the event ends as a bittersweet moment rather than an oh well, back to business as usual. All of this is just a missed opportunity, which is a funny analogy for the game as a whole. A game filled with massive potential, both pre-launch and after launch, all amounting to pretty average experience filled with some high points and some really low points. A game so bad that EA was so scared of pushing out cosmetics at launch because they feared the backlash of doing anything else with the IP before forcing DICE to fix the mess they helped cause. But if you really think about it, is there no pride in being that one game that was so bad it caused the publisher to rethink the entire brand as a whole and restructure how the games were made to begin with from a developer and studio level? No. Segues are hard to do, so take this one instead. If you're interested in playing War Thunder today, go download the game for free on PC, mobile, or any of these consoles on screen, and go ahead and use my link in the description and in the pinned comment to grab your goodies today. Alright, video over.